Hi, my name is Wesley Hamilton, and I'm the founder and creator of the PracticePeg. This video will serve as a complete overview of the PracticePeg, including setup, tuning basics, troubleshooting, and frequently asked questions. Feel free to skip around to the part of the video that best suits your needs. Now, let's put it into practice with the PracticePeg! Let's start with the basics. What is a PracticePeg? The PracticePeg is an accurate model of a violin neck, scroll, and peg box that simulates the needed resistance and strength to adjust tuning pegs. The PracticePeg features different types of tuning pegs and a maple neck and scroll. This model is the same size as a full-size violin. Now that we know what a PracticePeg looks like, let's talk about how to use standard tuning pegs. Tuning pegs can drastically change the pitch of a string. It's really important to remember when using tuning pegs that less is more. When you're ready to use tuning pegs, take your violin and turn it facing towards yourself. Take your left hand and put it underneath the neck to grip your violin, and when adjusting the right side of the pegs on the peg box, use your right hand. And then, when you move to the left side of the peg box, use your left hand to adjust your strings. It's also very important to make sure that you're using the correct peg. Follow the string with your finger so you know exactly what peg to use. Let's talk about how tuning pegs actually work. The peg is shaped like a cone and has a tapered end and is fitted into the peg box. Using the peg winds and unwinds the string, increasing and decreasing the length and therefore raising and lowering the pitch. When using tuning pegs, I like to think of two motions: turn and push. Turning the peg allows for the pitch to change. However, you must push the peg in at the same time in order to stabilize the pitch and avoid the peg slipping. To increase the pitch, you will turn the tuning peg clockwise or up towards the scroll. To decrease the pitch, turn the peg counterclockwise or down towards the bridge. When using tuning pegs, I recommend that you always start by tuning down or towards the bridge before trying to adjust the pitch higher to break the tension in a safe way. Again, it's very important to remember that less is more. Now it's time to learn how to use the PracticePeg. It's simple. Your goal is to match up the silver line with the silver notches on the sides of the peg box. If you turn your peg higher or lower to the gold line, above or below the silver line, you have reached the note above or below your string. This distance is approximately a whole step away from the goal note. For example, the gold line below the silver line here would be the note B. The silver line would be the goal note A. If you turn the peg all the way to the dotted silver line, that means that you have broken the string. It's important and essential to always push in and turn when you're adjusting tuning pegs to feel the resistance, and always remember there should be a clicking sound whenever you adjust the peg. Always remember that the PracticePeg simulates a real violin, so only turn your pegs how you would if you were doing the real thing. Here's an example of incorrect use. Here's an example of correct use. When you're ready to use the PracticePeg, your teacher or yourself will scramble the pegs in a random order, and it will be your job to adjust carefully and safely to the goal note. Then, when you're ready, you'll be more confident and have a better expectation for adjusting your own tuning pegs. Feel free to use the PracticePeg as many times as you need so you feel confident to use your own tuning pegs. This way, if you ever forget the feel of it, you can always go back to the PracticePeg for support. Not only is the PracticePeg useful for students and teachers, it is also a valuable tool for parents of young musicians who may not be old enough or strong enough to use their tuning pegs. This section of the video focuses on troubleshooting issues that you may encounter while using the PracticePeg. Since there are no strings attached to the PracticePeg, the pegs themselves may become loose or even fall out of the peg box. If that happens, don't worry. Just take your peg and gently slide it back into the peg box while applying a little bit of pressure until you get a clicking feeling. Whenever possible, keep the pegs in the peg box at all times. Pegs should never really be removed from the PracticePeg. If the peg becomes stuck or too difficult to move, ask an adult for help. If it becomes incredibly hard to move, even for a teacher, a pair of pliers can easily help pull the peg out of the peg box. If you have further troubleshooting issues, feel free to contact us at thepracticepeg@gmail.com. Now I'd like to answer some frequently asked questions. First off, why are there different kinds of pegs on the PracticePeg? The PracticePeg features many different types of tuning pegs and may vary from PracticePeg to PracticePeg. The reason for this is simple. You never know what types of tuning pegs you'll have on your own instrument. We believe it is important to have experience with all different types of tuning pegs and how they respond differently when adjusted. Secondly, why aren't there strings on the practice peg? We firmly believe that the practice peg is a risk-free solution to the multi-century problem of fear and anxiety when using tuning pegs. The practice peg is designed to help students feel more comfortable and confident when exploring how different tuning pegs feel when they are adjusted. And lastly, why doesn't the practice peg make any sound? Our current model is based on preliminary research and the importance of fine motor skills. With more research and funding, we plan to add pitch and string elements to our next model. We understand the importance of the aural component of tuning pegs and plan to incorporate that with further development. So please, stay tuned with our social media for updates on new products. Thank you for your time and attention during this video. If you have any further questions or feedback, please feel free to reach out to thepracticepeg@gmail.com. Now, it's time to put it into practice with the practice peg.